G'day guys and welcome back to a new episode of The Review, and of course today we are here to review round 21. Now of course we have some big games coming out throughout the weekend, a lot of games that will probably decide where teams are going to be finishing on the ladder towards the end of the season, and a big game to start off round 21 which was the Western Bulldogs up against Melbourne, and it was the Bulldogs who went on to smash Melbourne in the end. Probably should have done it by a lot more, but in the end they won by 51 points. The Bulldogs won 10, Melbourne 59. Now there was one injury concern from this game, which was Stephen May. He actually had a rib injury in the second term and he was subbed out at half time. He did try to stay out on the field for the second term, try to battle through the pain, but in the end he was actually taken to hospital after being subbed out. So hopefully it's not as bad as the Christian Petrarca injury, but there's a real big concern for Melbourne, and I don't think it would have really mattered if Stephen May was there, but I think that definitely compounds the fact that the Demons are going to miss the finals this year. Getting to the game itself, the Dogs started this game really super strong as they kicked the first 3 goals of the game, and despite the Demons getting one back, the Dogs absolutely dominated the first quarter. But they did miss countless opportunities in front of goal as they finished on 4 goals, 7 heading into quarter time and only held a 24-point lead, which sounds pretty decent for a quarter time lead, but 11 scoring shots to 2 proves the fact that the Dogs should have been a lot further in front. Now, it was goal for goal to start the second term, but the Dogs missed even more opportunities in the second quarter and should have held a much bigger lead. After kicking 2 goals, 6 in the quarter, the Dogs, the Demons were able to actually take a lot of their chances. They kicked 4 goals straight, and at halftime already down by 18 points. Now, to put it into a bit of perspective, the scoreline was absolutely insane at halftime. The Bulldogs were 6 goals, 13 to Melbourne, 5 goals, 1. So 19 scoring shots and a half is absolutely outstanding, and to only hold a 3-goal lead was absolutely staggering in my opinion. Now, the Dogs started to show a little bit more ascendancy early in the third quarter as they kicked 3 quick goals to take the margin over 36 points. And the Demons tried to keep themselves afloat in this contest, but the Dogs finally took the majority of their chances in the third quarter. The Western Bulldogs finished on 5 goals, 4 in the third term, and at 3-quarter time held a 38-point lead. And heading into the final quarter, it was much of the same for the Dogs. The Western Bulldogs kicked 4 more goals in the final term to go on and win by 51 points, but finishing with 35 scoring shots, the Western Bulldogs. And honestly, even though it was only 51 points, the Demons were probably lucky not to have been smashed by 80, 90, even 100 points in the end. They were demolished. So it was a great win from the Western Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, they could be fighting for a top 4 spot right now. We'll see how more results go throughout the weekend, but they currently sit in 4th spot as I'm recording this early Saturday morning. So moving to the statistics of this game, Max Gawn top score with the 136, Marcus Bontempelli with the 135, Treloar with the 116, Dale with the 114, Poulter with the 112, and then Jamarra Ugle-Hagan with the 102. And now guys, we get to the votes. Now as we're doing every single game of the AFL season, I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now if you're joining us, but if you're here for the first time, we're giving a 3-2-1 voting system for every single game of the AFL season. And then in the finals between the regular season and the finals, we'll be doing a live stream and we'll be doing a live countdown of every single vote from the season and getting our second ever Boundary Riders medalist. So my brother gave the votes for this game because I watched the West Coast games just to get a good overview of both games, and in the end he has gone with 3 votes Marcus Bontempelli, 2 votes to Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, and the 1 vote to Adam Treloar. Now I'm sure Jamarra would have got 3 votes here, but he kicked 2 goals, 6. So if Jamarra just kicked straight, he would have got 3 votes pretty easily, but Marcus Bontempelli, brilliant performance from him, he deserved the 3 votes. After that, we get to the West Coast versus the Gold Coast Suns. And despite the Gold Coast looking like they're about to break their duck in their away games, if they've still not won a game away from home this season, they look like they had it at some stages in this one, but the Eagles came home like a house on fire, stole the win for many respects, and the West Coast Eagles won by 10 points. They won 97, Gold Coast 87. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Harry Edwards. He received a head knock in the first quarter and he was subbed out in the second term. So really unfortunate. He's been a real good player for them this year as a tall defender. So really unfortunate there for the Eagles. But getting to the game itself, the Eagles were brilliant early in the clinches of the battle at the stoppages. And despite Witt's dominance in the ruck, the Eagles were playing to his taps brilliantly. It was a very tight on the scoreboard throughout the majority of the first quarter, but 2 late goals to the Suns saw them lead at quarter time by 7 points. Now the Suns looked to try and assert their dominance in the second term, but missed a few chances, and the Eagles were clinical in front of goal. And with only a few minutes to go before halftime, the Eagles were within 5 points of the Suns. But we saw the Gold Coast kick 2 late goals, which saw the Gold Coast Suns lead by 17 points at halftime. Now the Suns kicked an early goal in the early parts of the second half, but the Eagles started to rally and kick 4 goals in response to actually take the lead back for the first time since midway through the first quarter. However, the Suns did kick 3 of the last 4 goals to take a lead by 9 points at 3-quarter time. Now, after the first 10 minutes into the last quarter, both teams were trading goals, but then the game come to a standstill as the Suns led by 2 points. But the Eagles, led by their co-captain in Liam Duggan, took the lead back by snapping a goal from the stoppage, which was a brilliant finish, followed by a nice check side kick from Jamie Cripps, proved the difference in the end for the Eagles as they were able to hold on to a 10-point win. So the Eagles have broken their 10-game losing streak, I believe, so it's a really good performance from them. This was kind of like their grand final, I would say, and the Suns, they need to find a way to win away from home. Now, their finals hopes are gone now. That's a really disappointing performance from them. I, to be honest, wasn't expecting them to make finals this year, but it does prove, though, that they should have, because they should be able to win at least 2 or 3 games away from home this year. And with the fact that they've only lost, 1 game at home, it's pretty poor from the Gold Coast that they haven't made finals this year. So, really disappointing performance. Damien Hardwick's going to have to find a way to try and get them to win away from home, because right now it's a really disappointing year for the Suns. And it's another year where they've not made finals in their history. But moving to the stats on this game, Jared Witt's top scored in the AFL Fantasy front with the 141. Jack Darling, really good performance from him with the 121. Matt Rowell with the 117. Liam Duggan with the 114. Elliot Yeo with the 98. And then Noah Anderson with the 98 as well. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Liam Duggan. 2 votes went to Jake Waterman. And the 1 vote went to Matt Rowell. Now Matt Rowell absolutely did everything he could to try and get his team over the line in this game. But unfortunately, he couldn't do it all. And Jared Witts, who was a really good performer as well, and Noah Anderson had some good moments, but in the end, the Suns got beaten away from home yet again, and it's really disappointing from them. But Matt Rowell can hold his head up high. He played brilliantly for the Gold Coast. And West Coast, there were so many players who could have got votes here. In that second half, they were brilliant. But Liam Duggan and Jake Waterman were the standouts for me.
So now to the first game on Saturday, guys. It was the battle of the cellar dwellers in North Melbourne and Richmond. And in the end, despite Richmond having a lot of scoring shots in this game, it was the Kangaroos who got over the top by 13 points. North Melbourne 90, 77 to the Tigers. Now, there were a couple of injury concerns. One on each team. It was Dylan Stevens for North Melbourne and Steely Green for the Tigers. They both came off in the third quarter with different ankle injuries, and both of them were subbed out soon after. But let's get to the game itself. This game was quite close from the outset, with neither team leading by over 20 points throughout the whole afternoon. And Richmond did take the early advantage with the first 2 goals of the game, but North Melbourne did strike back as both teams would trade goals heading into quarter time, but the Tigers would lead by the 8 points. Now, after Richmond kicked early goal on the second turn, the Kangaroos got on a bit of a run as they kicked 3 goals in a row to take the lead for the first time in the game. But what would be most evident was the missed chances from Richmond in the second term, as they kicked 3 goals 6 to North Melbourne, who kicked 5 goals 1. That was really the big issue between both teams heading into half-time, but the Tigers still led by 1 point. Now again, both teams would be trading goals to start the second half, but North Melbourne would again get on a late run in the third quarter, kicking 3 goals in a row, including one of them on the 3-quarter time siren to lead by 18 points at 3-quarter time. Now Richmond had some big chances to get themselves back into this contest in the last quarter, but again would butcher their opportunities. The Tigers kicked 2 goals 5 in the last quarter, and in the end the Kangaroos held on in the crucial moments to run out winners by 13 points. So a good win from North Melbourne in the end. They have jumped pretty much away from getting bottom spot now. I'd be pretty surprised if North did finish bottom of the ladder at this stage, and Richmond, it's been a really disappointing year for them. And I've actually got a video essay coming out about the Tigers' downfall in the last couple of years, actually coming out tomorrow, or today, whenever you watch this. So get excited for that one. But Richmond, I think it's just a new rebuild, a new era for them, unfortunately. And Adam Uze's had a really tough start to his career as coach. But moving to the statistics of this game, of course, top scorer in the end of the AFL Fantasy front, massive game from him. Tristan Cherry with the 150. Luke Davies-Uniacke with the 123, along with Toby Nankervis. Tom Powell with the 116. Bailey Scott with the 114. And then Tim Taranto with the 111. Now let's get to the votes in this game. And my brother and I not really argued on it, but we definitely had some contentious thoughts. But in the end, we've gone with what he has decided. The votes are, in the end, 3 votes to Luke Davies-Uniacke, 2 votes to Tristan Cherry, and the 1 vote to Nick Larkey. Nick Larkey with the 5 goals was brilliant. Probably one of the better games he's had this year, so great job from him. And a great win from North. After that, we get to Geelong up against the Adelaide Crows. And the Crows, after 21 years of losing down at Cardinia Park, have not broken the deadlock, unfortunately for them. The Cats were able to just jump in front in the last quarter and win by 5 points. Geelong 90, 85 to the Crows. So there's one injury concern from this game, which was Sam De Koning. He was trying to keep up with his forward that he was trying to keep under wraps, but awkwardly went to ground as he twisted his knee and was subbed out in the third quarter. So really unfortunate for Sam De Koning. Hopefully he's okay. It was just at the worst jarring, but it's when you twist and it's really innocuous sort of action, it could be serious, but hopefully everything's okay with Sam. But getting to the game itself, the Cats started the stronger of the two teams who missed some really early opportunities. However, they did score 15 points before Adelaide actually troubled the scorers in the opening term. But the Crows really clicked into gear and were within 2 points late in the first quarter. But the Cats did get a late goal and led by 8 points at quarter time. Now, Geelong threatened at times to take a bigger advantage in the second quarter, but every single time they would try to, the Crows, to their credit, really showed some true fight and grit and wouldn't let the margin push over 3 goals. And with Adelaide kicking 2 of the last 3 goals in the second term, the Cats still only held an 8-point lead at half time. Now, the Crows kicked the first goal of the second half, but then the Cats would kick 3 more in a row and take a game-high lead for them by 21 points. And it seemed at that point that it was going to be their day. But to the Crows' credit, they really rallied and not only fought back to kick 4 goals in a row, but actually took the lead late in the third term and at 3-quarter time led by 3 points. Now, the Crows kicked the first goal of the final quarter to give themselves a 9-point advantage, but the Cats would respond pretty quickly to get the margin back to under a goal. Now, the Cats crept ever closer through a series of behinds, but finally the Cats would kick straight, with them kicking 2 goals to get themselves out by 11 points with just over a minute to go. But the Crows weren't done just yet. They had one more shot to fire as Josh Rochelle kicked a goal with 30 seconds to play, got themselves within 5 points, but the Cats in the final moments did enough to hold on. And in the end, the Cats won by 5 points to keep their top 4 hopes alive. So there's been a bunch of interesting results throughout the weekend, of course. Geelong keep their top 4 hopes alive, but I mean, they could easily drop out of the 8 in a couple of weeks. So they have to keep on winning their games. They did well here. And a good win from Geelong. The Crows, on the other hand, look, good performance from them. They still haven't broken the drought down in Geelong, but a really good performance, and they nearly stole this win. So good effort from the Crows, and Geelong did well to win this one when they didn't really play their best. But moving to the statistics of this game, top scorer in the end was Jeremy Cameron with the 120 and 6 goals. Great performance. Riley O'Brien with the 115, Tom Stewart with the 107, Jordan Dawson with the 104 along with Rory Laird, and then 102 to Tanner Bruin. So, getting to the votes of this game, 3 votes, of course, went to Jeremy Cameron, 2 votes went to Tanner Bruin, and the 1 vote went to Riley Thilthorpe. Now, I think he only got a couple of goals in this game, but he did really well around every single time he was near the ball. Riley Thilthorpe would look like he was going to do something or have some sort of impact, and even though it was only 2 or 3 goals, his impact with score involvements and being involved in so many opportunities for Adelaide, he did really well, and he's up for a big year next year. Obviously, we're set for a big year this year, but obviously had a big injury to start the season. After that, we get to probably what was going to be set up as the match of the round, Scotty Pendlebury's 400th game, Collingwood against Carlton. And Collingwood, a bit of a heart stopper in the end. They probably should have won this game earlier, but they held on in the final moment after a missed set shot on the siren from Mitch McGovern, and Collingwood won by 3 points. 84 to Collingwood, 81 to the Blues. There was 3 injury concerns from this game, 2 to Carlton, 1 to Collingwood. We'll start with Carlton, which is Adam Chera. He did suffer a hamstring injury, which is the 5th one that he's done in the last 12 months. That's really unfortunate, and he was subbed out in the second term. We also had Matt Cottrell, who injured his shoulder in the third quarter, and then he was ruled out after that. And then Jordan Ngoe, who came off the ground in the third quarter with a hamstring injury as well. He was subbed out pretty much straight away. They were not taking any chances with Jordan Ngoe, and it looks like it could be a really serious one. It could miss the rest of the season. So unfortunate there for the Pies. But getting to the game itself, the Blues started off really well. They were hot around the contest and had the ball going forward. But like a lot of teams have done this weekend, they missed so many opportunities. Carlton kicked 8 behinds to Collingwood, who actually took the few chances that they had and kicked 2 goals too. Now, luckily, Carlton did get a goal on quarter time through Harry Mackay to draw the scores level. But the Pies did start well in the second term with the first 2 goals. However, Carlton quickly responded with 2 of their own. But again, Carlton missed their opportunities in the second term, and Collingwood would take theirs. And at half time, despite Carlton probably being the better team, Collingwood led by 13 points, so they did really well. Now, Collingwood kicked the first 2 goals for the second half to give themselves a game-high lead, but Carlton did respond with 2 of their own. The teams continued to trade goals throughout the third quarter, but Collingwood did kick 2 in a row to end the third term and led by 25 points. And at this stage, it kind of felt like it was a fairy tale finish for Scotty Pendlebury. And especially after they kicked the first goal of the final quarter, they led by 32 points and looked all but done. But Carlton did have one massive comeback to go. They kicked 5 goals in a row to get within 2 points in the final moments, where Mitch McGovern took a mark inside the forward 50. But when he went back and had the set shot, he tried to kick the skin off the footy and completely butchered it. It went wide to the right, and in the end, Collingwood were able to hold on by 3 points. So Collingwood, they have a slight chance now of making the 8. Really good performance from them. They did it well for Scotty Pendlebury. I don't know if they're going to make the 8. If they do, I wouldn't want to play them, to be honest, because I think they're very dangerous. But really good performance from Collingwood. And Carlton, It's insane to think right now that they could miss the finals, considering where they were 4 weeks ago. It is absolutely insane how the seasons have gone. It's been an entertaining watch, to say the least. But moving to the statistics of this game, Nick Newman top scored with the 145, Sam Walsh with the 130, George Hewitt with the 110, Paddy Cripps with the 107, Darcy Cameron with the 102, and then Hoskin Elliott with the 99. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes to George Hewitt, 2 votes to Will Hoskin Elliott, and the 1 vote to the 400 gamer in Scotty Pendlebury. After that, let's get to the game that I really don't want to talk about, but we're going to have to, of course. Port Adelaide up against Sydney, and the Swans were utterly embarrassed. Port Adelaide played absolutely brilliant footy from the outset and just grounded Sydney into the dirt. It was a massive performance from Port Adelaide. They won by a whopping 112 points. Port Adelaide 148, the Sydney Swans 36. So let's get through to the game and then I'll give you my thoughts. So the Port Adelaide started this game like a house on fire. They smashed Sydney around the middle, made Sydney look like a basket case, and honestly it was one of the worst quarters of footy I've seen from a team all season. Port Adelaide were brilliant though, and their pressure was amazing. Every single time they went forward, they looked like they were going to score. And not only did Port Adelaide keep the Swans scoreless in the first quarter, but led by 45 points. And it didn't really get much better for Sydney in the second quarter. Port Adelaide kicked 4 goals in a row to make it 11 straight before Sydney finally would kick their first and only goal of the first half by Isaac Heaney. But Port Adelaide quickly took back control and at halftime led by a whopping 77 points. And again, same old stuff in the third quarter. Port Adelaide continued to extend their lead. They led by 89 points at three-quarter time. And in the final quarter, the Swans really didn't do much else. Port Adelaide continued to walk all over them. And in the end, Port Adelaide just kept on piling on the pain and won by 112 points. Now, obviously, I didn't break this game down very much because, let's be honest, after the first 10 minutes, this game was done. I was at the game as a Swan supporter, and it's probably the first time I've ever been embarrassed of being a Swan supporter in my life. That was an embarrassment. The first 10 minutes of this game, Port Adelaide brought the pressure, which was really good to see, and I was sitting there with my brother thinking, how is Sydney going to respond here? And not only did they not respond, but they bent over and just took it. They took it for 4 straight quarters, and it was an embarrassment. So I don't really like to say things like you got to play for the jumper and stuff, but Sydney, they've been a proud club for 20, 30 years now. They've got to play for the jumper. That was an embarrassment. This team's supposed to be one of the biggest teams in the comp, one of the most successful teams of the past 20 years, to get not only beaten by Port Adelaide, who we should really be beating at this point of the season, but to get smashed by 112 points, not fire a shot. And you can make a couple of excuses for injuries, but Sydney should not be getting smashed by 112 points against any team, let alone Port Adelaide. But on Port Adelaide's side, I don't want to just give crap to Sydney. They were brilliant from the outset. And the best thing they did was, as soon as they saw this easy kill, they took it and they smashed Sydney. So a great win from Port Adelaide. I can't give enough credit to them. They have turned their season around. Right now, it's really hard to see them missing the 8 because they've done brilliantly the last month or so. But getting to the statistics of this game, Zach Butters top score with the 128, Dan Houston with the 126 along with Connor Rosie, Willem Drew with the 117, Ollie Wines with the 106, and then Errol Goulden with the 101. Now, it's pretty hard to pick the votes in this one because there were so many Port players who could have got it. But me and my brother conferred, and we've gone with the votes here. 3 votes to Dan Houston, 2 votes to Zach Butters, and the 1 vote to Jason Horne-Francis. So now on to Sunday, guys, and what a couple of games we have to take a look at. First of all, it was the Giants up against Hawthorn, and despite Hawthorn leading throughout pretty much the whole afternoon, the Giants stole the game late and won by 2 points. GWS 84, Hawthorn 82. So straight to the game, the Giants started really well in this game with the first 5 scoring shots of it, but were only able to kick 1 goal for and left the door ajar for Hawthorn to get to work. And Hawthorn would go and kick the remaining 4 goals of the opening term and would lead by 15 points at quarter time. Now Hawthorn continued to fire in the second term as they kicked the first goal of it. However, both teams did trade goals for the majority of the quarter. And going into halftime, the Hawks would actually improve their lead up to 20 points. Now, even though the Hawks kicked an early goal in the third term, the Giants really started to be a lot better in the third quarter, as they would reduce the margin to under 15 points. But again, Hawthorn would increase their margin with 2 late goals in the third quarter to lead by 28 points at three-quarter time. And at this point, it just felt like every single time the Giants were trying to challenge, Hawthorn just had all the answers. Now, the Giants started pretty well in the final quarter after kicking 3 goals in a row to reduce the margin to only 10 points, but Hawthorn did steady and did not let GWS get within a goal. However, this game wasn't done just yet. As it ticked into red time, it did look like Hawthorn had the game won, but the Giants had one last surge left. And it was a massive comeback from the Giants. After only leading in the early stages of this game, GWS kicked the final 3 goals of this game to snatch the lead and hold on for a 2-point win. So, to be honest with you, I don't think GWS had any right to win this game. But sometimes the top teams just have to find a way to win, and Hawthorn
That's really disappointing. This is probably the most disappointing I've seen Hawthorn probably since the Port Adelaide game. I think that was probably a worse loss, but this one they simply had to win. It's such an important game for them to win against Carlton next week if they are going to somehow scrape into finals. But the Giants, they did absolutely amazing to catch back into that game and win it. So great job from them. But moving to the statistics in this game, Lachie Whitfield top scored on the AFL fantasy front with the 137, Carl Amon with the 124, Jesse Hogan with the 110, Lloyd Meek with the 109, John Newcombe with the 103, and then Blake Hardwick with the 102. Now we'll get into the votes in this game. My brother gave the votes for this one as I was watching the Essendon game. But he has gone 3 votes, Jesse Hogan, 2 votes, John Newcombe, and the 1 vote to Lachie Whitfield. Next up, we get to Essendon v Fremantle, and this is a pretty big upset. I don't think a lot of people would have seen this coming, especially early in the last quarter when Fremantle led by a comfortable 20-plus point lead, 25-plus point lead. And in the end, Essendon have come from the clouds to steal this win and win by 1 point in the end, courtesy of Sam Durham behind in the last 20-odd seconds. Essendon 90, Fremantle 89. So Essendon actually were really good in the start of this game, were really hot with the pressure early, and it really helped with their clearance game and stoppages. Both teams were pretty fierce at the contest at the start of this one, and it set for a big game from the outset. And we actually saw a really high-scoring first quarter with both teams combining for 9 goals, but at quarter time, Essendon did lead by 9 points. Now, Freo did start a lot better in the second quarter as they kicked 3 goals in a row to break in front, but Essendon steadied themselves midway through the quarter and were within a point of the Dockers with only a few minutes left in the first half. But Fremantle kicked 2 late goals in the end to lead by 13 points at half-time. Now, it was a big arm wrestle in the third quarter with neither team really able to break away or get right back into the game. But in the latter parts of the third quarter, Freo actually kicked 2 goals to break away to get to a game-high 20-point lead, and at three-quarter time, Freo led by 19 points. And after Fremantle got the first goal of the last quarter, it looked like it was all over, all ready to go home. But Essendon weren't going to just lie down and let this game slip away. They clawed their way back to kick 5 goals in pretty quick succession. And Essendon did have the lead, but Freo did draw level with only 30 seconds left due to a Jai Amos brilliant set shot kick. But Essendon were able to break away from the centre, get a point late in the game, courtesy of Sam Durham, and were able to hold on in the final moments. Great mark from Sam Draper in the as well in the middle of the ground, just to stop any chance of Fremantle able to get back into it. So, great win from Essendon. They somehow keep their season alive, and what a season it has been so far. So many changes in the ladder. We'll have to look at the ladder in a minute, but great play from Essendon and Fremantle. That's a really tough loss. They had a chance here to get into the top 4, top 2 even, and that's really disappointing from Fremantle. So they've got to go to the drawing board, and now they've also got to fight to get into the 8, because anyone outside of the top 8 right now, Collingwood, Hawthorn, Essendon as well, can break back into there now. But getting to the statistics of this game, Luke Ryan top scored with the 121, Zach Merritt with the 118, Jai Caldwell with the 116, Andrew Brayshaw with the 109, Hayden Young with the 106, and then Darcy Parish with the 107. Now we get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jai Caldwell, 2 votes went to Hayden Young, and the 1 vote went to Zach Merritt. Now guys, let's get to the final game of round 21. It was St Kilda up against Brisbane, and Brisbane just outclassed St Kilda throughout the whole night. Kicked 19 goals in the end and won by a whopping 85 points. Brisbane 124, St Kilda 39. Let's get to the game itself. The game started pretty sluggish, not really many goals scored. Brisbane did kick the first goal, but they were pretty dominant in the middle of the ground. St Kilda, I think, did pretty well to actually stay in touch with Brisbane, and at quarter time, the Lions only held a 15-point lead. Now, in the second term, Brisbane really started to break away. They kicked 3 early goals to give themselves a really nice buffer. And not only did the Lions keep St Kilda goalless in the second quarter, but also increased their margin to a 47-point lead. Now, Brisbane would pile on 2 more goals early in the third quarter to continue their run of 10 straight goals. However, St Kilda would finally break their drought midway through the third quarter, give themselves a little bit more of respectability, but Brisbane just continued their fight. St Kilda did get 2 goals in the third term, but Brisbane still increased their lead. They led by 59 points at three-quarter time, and Brisbane really just continued to pile on the pain in the last quarter. St Kilda did get a couple more goals, but really it was all about Brisbane. They didn't even put the Q in the rack. They just drove this game home. They kicked 6 goals to 2 in the final quarter and ran out winners by 85 points. So a great win from Brisbane. They give themselves a real chance to get top spot now after Sydney have fumbled over the past 4 or 5 weeks. So great job from Brisbane. Probably the premiership favourite right now. But getting to the statistics of this game, top scorer was Jack Sinclair with the 136, Rowan Marshall with the 130, Hugh McCluggage with the 110, Lachie Neale with the 109, Jack Steele with the 108, and then Dane Zorko with the 105. And now let's get to the votes in this game. My brother gave the votes for these ones as I was watching the middle game. He went in the end 3 votes Cam Rayner, 2 votes Joe Danaher, and the 1 vote to Hugh McCluggage. But with that being said, guys, let's get to the AFL ladder. at the end of round 21. Only 3 more games to go after this one. Swans still sit on top. They still have the best percentage in the league, but only just. They sit 2 points in front of Brisbane, who are in second. Port Adelaide sit in third spot. The Giants are in fourth. Geelong are in fifth. Fremantle, with their loss, have dropped all the way down into the sixth spot. Western Bulldogs have jumped up into seventh. Carlton teetering on the 8. Essendon, with their win, a surprise. They're 2 points out of the 8 now. Hawthorn, big game next week against Carlton. They're in 10th. Collingwood give themselves a chance. They're in 11th. Melbourne, 12th, probably out from here. Gold Coast, 13th. St Kilda, 14th. The Crows are in 15th. West Coast, 16th. North Melbourne in 17th. And then finally, the Tigers are in last spot of the AFL ladder. But guys, that is all we have for the episode of the review today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Just a quick little announcement, I guess. There will be a new video essay dropping tomorrow, Monday, 3 o'clock Melbourne time, 2:30 Adelaide time. So it'll be about the Richmond Tigers. Hopefully you guys do enjoy it. If you did enjoy this episode of the review, though, of course, make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And over on Spotify, we're releasing things every single week, of course. Make sure to leave us a follow over there and 5 stars because I asked very nicely. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch us all next week.